Hi, everyone. Okay, we're a very intimate crowd because I'm not David O'Reilly, who's right here, who's like a big, fancy, very special, very talented guy. So I'm not as talented as he is, but I have my own gifts. And all right, so my name is Gary Baseman. I'm an artist from LA. I have like 45 minutes, so I'm going to do this really quick. And the goal is, rather than being involved with all these other talks that are trying to talk about motion graphics or talking about software or being a better person or giving you like, these are the 10 things you should do every morning. You should like look at the sun and then kiss your mother and then, stuff like that. I'm not going to tell you any of that kind of stuff. But what I'm going to try to do is give you a little taste and a little sense of the way I kind of look at this world that we live in and what life is all about. And through Jesus Christ our Lord. No, being a nice Jewish boy, I'm dealing with a lot of guilt for murdering him. Well, not that I personally did. It was just my people. And actually, it wasn't even my people. It was like the Romans. It's like, come on. The Vatican's like, the whole reason the Vatican even exists because of all their own personal guilt. So, but anyway, we'll go back to Jewish guilt. But I'm not even religious. But we're going to, okay, let's start this better. So what I have here is I have a few things for you guys to play with, since I'm not going to be that entertaining during our talk. But they're actually really, really important in the sense of what I feel art is all about. And art goes way beyond, when I say art, I mean the breath, the life breath that we all have in a way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass these things out. Hopefully I'll get them back and nobody takes them. But one is this guy, Toby. So, and you're going to learn who Toby is. He's I created him in a way. David O'Reilly calls him my avatar, but he's like my alter ego. He's like the keeper of your dirty little secrets, and he loves you unconditionally. But I created him for a reason, to kind of blur the lines between what is a toy and what is art, and the idea of that we shouldn't be intimidated by what art is. So here, I threw it to you, even though I probably gave it to you. But just play with him. You can take selfies if you want with him. And you'll learn who he is, hopefully, by the end of the 45-minute talk, unless I just ramble too long and we miss the ending of my own talk. And then this thing is probably worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I'm going to let you play with it also to take a look at it. So this is actually my sketchbook. And this is sketchbook number 143 in my lifetime. And it's kind of like, what am I doing? I'm just like dying here. Okay. It's kind of like the air that I breathe. So, I'll talk about art and talk about life, but this is kind of the approach to the way I exist. It actually kind of relaxes me. It's a type of meditation. And so you'll see that every page is like a drawing after drawing after drawing. And it's my way of documenting my existence and my travels and life. And so take a look at it. There's probably really personal things about how miserable I am and how I want to die and how somebody just broke my heart or something like that. But or I broke someone else's heart. But there we go. Okay, so go through that too. Okay, let's start now. And again, we're a very intimate, close audience. So honestly, if you guys do have a question, don't be afraid to raise your hand and I'll try to take it. And, as long as it's not too awkward. Okay, so art, life. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this because I have a lot of time on my hands. And I guess a lot of things that the way I create things, or even the reason why I do, because I've always been an artist since I was a little kid. And for me, art is basically sharing. And in the most basic form. So for me, I use art in a very liberal way. Term in the sense that art is about conversation. It's drawing, it could be music, it could be film or photos, or even your selfies. That can be like crappy art, but it's still art. And so for me, life is about that kind of sharing. It's about that intimacy, that being able to, for me to share something about my life, and then you to be able to share about your life. And it's that closeness. And for me, in life, what really I remember is those moments of that interaction and that growth of who we are. And so for me, that's like the very core basicness. And so for me, when I see people that are intimidated by art, or people that are like scared of it, or it's supposed to be too abstract, or it's too important, and then also when you go into museums or even certain galleries, they try to act like you're not worthy. And the reality is that we're all worthy, because the best art is all about the human condition in many ways, even in the most abstract way. If you look at somebody like Mark Rothko, who's the most abstract painter, if you ask him and you said, oh, Mark Rothko, why is his paintings worth, $1 billion? And you're like, oh, he's the greatest color theorist of all time. And it's like, he would even say, I'm not a fucking color theorist. What his paintings were was actual human emotion. That's what he was trying to capture. And I remember the first time I ever saw Mark Rothko up front, I was at the Museum of Contemporary Art in LA. It was actually before the building was up. It was called the Temporary Contemporary. And I saw Mark Rothko in front of my face. And I started having this like really kind of nervous energy or feelings. And I wasn't sure. It was actually the same kind of feeling I got when I first fell in love with a girl. And first fell in love with her. And I wasn't sure if I was, having some kind of anxiety problem or something. And if I could be an artist and I could make somebody feel that same way, that would, be my life's fulfillment and goal. But I also create art in my own unique individual way. So somehow when I do have exhibitions and I create a body of work, somehow these characters seem to exist. And I kind of use the phrase that I don't create characters, they kind of create themselves. And somehow they are used, or they come about as this kind of iconic element of what a theme is of the work that I'm doing. Okay, we're going to move on. This is actually the Drake 150. So if we walk afterwards, I'm going to take you all for a drink, and we can go over. It's literally a half a block away. I did this art installation titled what is it called? It says, My Eyes Are Bigger Than My Stomach. And so I basically took over the whole restaurant. This is just a simple mural that I did in about a week of my characters. It's kind of like the Algonquin Round Table. But when you first walk in, you're going to see these Tobys that you're looking at now, who's the keeper of your secrets. But then also there's a giant wall of these trays. And these are trays of, and printed on them are the drawings that I did in sketchbooks during my meals, during my travels. So here we have Shanghai, we have like Italy, we have like Ukraine, we have all the different places with my wallpaper behind it. And then what my favorite part of this art installation that doesn't really exist there on a regular basis, although the whole idea was that it should, is that I created 50 different placemats. So these were placemats that should be put on the table, and when you sat down, you were actually sitting in my own seat. So you were sitting where I was when I was having pierogi in Poland, when I was having In-N-Out Burger in LA, when I was having Shanghai in Shanghai, or pizza in Rome. And so I love that idea of, again, the play off the social networking of people taking pictures of the food, but I'm taking pictures of my food and my artwork. So I've been really fortunate in the last couple years. And even though I'm close to only I think I'm like 24 years old now, I had a retrospective and actually more of like a mid-career survey. And it started at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. And so it was titled, The Door Is Always Open. it was titled that, and that's actually, ironically, it's the name of my talk. And bless you. It was actually a phrase that my father would always tell me, that his home would always be my home. So he'd always tell me in his broken English, in his like Yiddish, Polish, Russian language. And he would go, Gary, the door is always open. Don't be a stranger. And so for me, knowing that his home would always be my home, and when I had this exhibition at the Skirball, I felt like this was the proper title for the show. The thing was that I didn't want to have a traditional museum exhibition of just white walls and my important paintings just plastered on the wall, and then you'd walk in this uncomfortable environment. Again, for me, the importance is that art is for everyone. We all can create art. We all should be able to create art in our own way and find our own approach to being able to share our existence in our life, you know? So this is actually a short little video of the exhibition that I did in, there's no sound, should be sound, in Taiwan. Because after we did the show in the Skirball, it moved to Taipei. Thanks. So you see also in the work that I do, I like to work in many, many different mediums. Part of it is through art performance. Part of it is through film. Part of it is through painting, photography. Any medium that has been created or will be created, I will, if I feel like it's appropriate to get my message out, I'll use it. Now, as you can see in this exhibition, what I did was to create an environment to allow people to feel comfortable within my worldview, is that I created a home in the middle of the museum. So I created a home for people to be able to sit in my sofas and my chairs and not be intimidated by art itself, that they could feel in an environment that feels welcoming. Okay. So I had 3 incarnations so far of this exhibition. One was at the Skirball Cultural Center in LA. One was at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Taiwan. And one was at the K11 Arts Foundation in Shanghai. Every room in this exhibition was based on a theme in my body of work. So the living room was type of an introduction, and it was about the welcoming. Now, if you look at this furniture is actually my parents' real furniture. So it was also a love letter to my family, and I wanted my parents' real furniture in there to be able to, for people to be able to sit and be part of it. I also, around my paintings, I had family photos. My mom at my brother's wedding, my mom and dad at my brother's wedding. This is actually, it's horrible when you peek at like 4 years old, but this is when I was the cutest, like here. When I was working on the dining room was all about celebration. And this was a sketch for my sketchbook when I was trying to figure out what I wanted the dining room to look like. And I wanted to use, like, again, this is like the real wallpaper from my parents' home. And then this is the wallpaper that I created for the dining room of all rooms. But I created different wallpaper for every room. So I wanted it to emulate my family's real home. And this is the dining room. And this is the dining room chair and tables that I celebrated birthdays, Passover, Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, and so on and so on. Here is the hallway. The hallway actually represented journey. And this is where a lot of the photos of Toby's travels, and you're going to see who Toby is and why he's so important. And not just my life, but also yours. Or it will be. And here's an army of Tobys. the office actually represented work. And even though this was an exhibition of my fine art, I wanted to have a special room that represented my life as an illustrator. So I was an illustrator for over 10 years, and I did about 12 to 20 assignments every month for that decade. And this is just a sampling of the work I've done for Time Magazine, for the New York Times, the New Yorker, Rolling Stone, every big magazine, every little magazine. I took it on. This was actually busboards here for Toronto for Labatt Blue beer way back when. I used to do a lot. I used to do everything. So also, this is the room about the den. The den was all about play. And what I discovered about play is, I guess you can't play with yourself, but the whole idea of playing, that's a whole other conversation. Actually, wait for David O'Reilly's lecture. He's going to have, his whole lecture is all on masturbation. The art of masturbation. The motion graphics art of masturbation. Okay. So let's get back to serious stuff. So my den is all about play. And what I did was that I used to have an animated TV series called Teacher's Pet for Disney. And you could actually sit on the sofa and watch 3 episodes of the show on my parents' 1970s TV set. Also, I created the characters for the game Cranium. Did that for about 10 years. You could come sit at the table and play all day long Cranium if you wanted. The backyard represented performance. And so there I kind of had elements that were based on different performances. Like this was from a performance exhibition called La Noche de la Fusión, where I created a mythical holiday that was about the blurring and the melting of societal walls, so we can discover, accept, and love our true self through my inspiration of going to Brazil and Carnival. Did I mention David O'Reilly is having a talk about masturbation? Okay. And then also, like in Taiwan, it was really lovely that every time I gave a tour, I had more people at my tour every day in Taiwan than we have here listening to my talk here at FITC. Okay. The bedroom was all about the human condition. So it's about kind of intimacy and masturbation and sex, and you get the idea. Oh, and this happens to be my parents' real bedroom set. So it's kind of like really freaky and weird to even make a joke about masturbation and have my parents' bedroom set right there. It's kind of odd. All right, and then here is a painting called The Explosion of Dream Reality. And in fact, a lot of my art is really about my own dream reality. So if you're going through my sketchbook and taking a look, that's actually the way I really look at the real world. I mean, I personally, it's not like something that I have to work on. It's really just the way that I see you, and that's what I see. For me, there's such a beauty about this poetic nature of life. And if I had to use one phrase that described my artwork, it's really about the celebration of the beauty of the bittersweetness of life. I mean, for me, there's a poetic nature to the world that we live in, and I really try to capture it throughout my day, all day. The way I am right now isn't a bit. It's actually, this is how I really am. It's sad, but it's true. Here is the study in the exhibition, and actually the study was about heritage, and it's about this. It was really interesting to me at the time because it came about at a time where I'm actually working on this documentary, and I'm looking back at my family heritage and how they actually inspired a lot of my art, or actually, basically the reason the way I am. This in this room, this is a particular art piece called The Unveiling of La Petite Morte. And I'm kind of obsessed with photos of people in masks. I have close to 2,000 beautiful original photos. So if anybody has an original photo of somebody in mask and if they want to donate it to me. But generally the collection is from 1915 to 1950. And they're beautifully haunting and scary. But this is one particular ghost girl, and this is from an exhibition called Walking Through Walls. And you'll see there's a running theme through my work of moving through societal walls. I mean, honestly, for me, the goal that when I was growing up as a little kid, I was such a fucking good kid. I was so fucking responsible, and I thought everything was going on our permanent record in life, you know? And so I did everything that I thought. I had to graduate college 4 years straight. It didn't even take the summer off. I had to graduate. Like, I had to get married at this age. I had to buy a house by this age. I had to have for my first New Yorker cover by this age, you know. I had to have a TV show by this age. Or things like that of what I thought I was supposed to do, that everything was going to go on this permanent record, and then God would open up and go, you were successful and famous and amazing because you did everything right. And then I realized nobody gave a fuck about anything. And so for me, I've been spending this rest of my life tearing it all fucking down. That's why we're locking the doors and we're just burning this whole place down right now. No, so basically, okay. The things that just come out of my head, and I never even thought about it. I've never even used that gag before. But anyways, before I get arrested for screaming fire in a public theater, is that my goal is to break down societal walls for me to finally go back. And even though I have always been comfortable as me as an artist, I'm so uncomfortable with me as a person. Who am I really? Why are you guys even here? Why am I here? How do I want to live my life, and how do I want to create my life? And I think that just will make me even a stronger, pure form of artist. And so this particular piece, Walking Through Walls, was the whole idea of us all becoming ghost girls and being able to move through societal walls. As long as we're not malicious or want to take advantage of somebody or hurt somebody else, we should be able to live the life and not just be judged by somebody, you know? So, okay. I was going to do another joke about David O'Reilly, but that's it. I'm just happy that he's here, you know, that he woke up. Now, this key is... I don't care about anybody else. Actually, I care about all you guys. Actually, I don't care about David O'Reilly because he got a free ticket in here, but you guys all had to spend your company's money to come here, or your parents' money. Like, no one actually spent their own money. Isn't it amazing? It was company's money or your mommy and daddy's money. It's like, but I spent it anyways. Okay. That's a longer story about talking about the times we're living in today. But this key is so important to me, and it's something I created for my exhibition, for the house, for the door is always open. I'm actually working on a documentary about my family because it's a really, really dark story. So we're going to go from being really funny talking about masturbation. Pretty soon we're going to be talking about mass murder. It's okay, but before we talk about mass murder, we're going to go into the key. So the key actually came from my parents' real home. This is a key that came from my parents' real closet that there's many things. One, there were secrets I discovered about my dad in that closet that changed my view of who he was. It was also the closet where my parents always kept their most important documents. My mom kept all her purses and all that stuff. It was also the place that I discovered where my older brothers used to keep their stash of Playboy magazine. And that's a whole other weird story that I'm not necessarily going into, because when I was a kid, I tried, even though I was the most sexual kid, I would act like the most asexual kid. I would never let anyone in the world know that I had any interest or I could fall in love or I had a crush on anyone. Or if my brothers tried to show me these Playboy magazines, I would act so fucking uninterested and I didn't care until they left the house. And then I would dive into that closet and then go into the topic that David O'Reilly is going to discuss. Anyways, okay. Back to the key. So I had to cast that key of my parents' home. And I put the head of Toby on it because Toby is the keeper of your secrets. And so I cast that key. Nobody in the museum knew I did so. Did it with my own funds. And anyone who came up to me and greeted me at my opening, and I had about 2,000 people at the opening, so it was literally just hundreds of people coming up to me. I would let them know that where this key came from, that it came from my parents' home. And I would welcome them into my museum home. And I wanted them to let them know that, again, the exhibition was called The Door is Always Open, and I, like you already know, it was a phrase that my father used to always tell me, and I wanted them to feel comfortable with the act of creating, and that in my home, they could be anything they wanted, and they could create anything they want. And if they came from a home or a family that said, no, you're not good enough, or you're not talented enough, or at least maybe even if you are, have some kind of security, be responsible, have a day job, do something, have kids, find a nice boy that your parents will approve, and, from the same religion or the same place, and maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want a nice older guy. So, or yeah, anyways, so I wanted them to feel really comfortable in this museum, in this home, in this kind of new setting, that they're free to be who they are, and that the door was always open, and that the creative door is open to themselves. So they are always realizing that the door is open to them. So I would actually give them that key. So I'd open up their hand, look at them deeply in the eye, and hand them the key. And say that now that my home is now their home. And so that was also part of these kind of memory pieces that I've created, that I've used in many of my different type of art performances. Okay, this was also in the study, and this is actually part of the story about my family. So I had this exhibition called Mythical Homeland, and it was about how the forest actually saved my family's life. And it was also actually, let's go back 1 second, a story that I never needed to tell while my parents were alive, because they were alive and they could share the story. But when my father passed away, it kind of like this giant weight, this giant burden came down on me going, if I didn't tell my father's story, it would be lost forever. And I have older brothers and sisters, but none of them are really artists, and they would never tell this story. So I knew it was something that I needed to do. So I was able, with my writing partner, David Charles, we were able to become fellows of the New Frontier program at the Sundance Institute. They've been really supportive. And we're working on this documentary called Mythical Creatures. This is actually a photo in Auschwitz. But the story about my mom and dad, here they are. They were married for 63 years. And they actually, everyone in my family was once a Canadian citizen, except for moi. So my mom and dad were originally from Eastern Europe, from these two tiny small towns. My dad's from a town of Berezna. My mom is from a town of Kostopol, a half an hour away from each other. Little tiny towns of 3,000 people. And in 1941, the German army, well, they actually created two special German military units. One was to fight the Russians, and the second military unit was only created to kill Jews. So before there was actually death camps, unfortunately, my mom and dad's towns were right on the border, or the area where the Germans came in and basically systematically mass murdered everyone in these towns, except for maybe 100. My dad was fortunate to escape into the woods. My mom was put on a train towards Russia with her sister and little brother, but both their mother and father, on my dad's side and my mother's side, were killed. Their homes, every possession, it's like a story that is like almost too horrific to even comprehend. These are my grandfather and my grandmother on my father's side. This is part of an art installation I had in Los Angeles, Miami, and in Edinburgh, Scotland, where I created a birch forest, and I had all my paintings and drawings nailed to trees and family photos. This is my great-grandfather, Gary Baseman, and again, part of this thing where so even though I was born and raised in Hollywood in LA with everything, every opportunity, my father is from this, and my mother is from these two small towns in eastern Poland that are now part of Ukraine. My grandfather is from there, my great-great-grandfather, my great-great-great-grandfather. So my roots in that part of the world goes like seriously deep, probably all the way to China, but that's a whole other thing. All right, so that's a picture of my father, the only picture I have of my dad as a partisan, as a freedom fighter. And so he not only escaped into the woods, he spent the next 3.5 years being a non-trained soldier, becoming a freedom fighter, becoming a soldier fighting against this giant military unit, and survived. I don't know how he lived 3.5 years in the woods of Poland. I don't understand how I grew up. I was an American dream accident baby. So my parents were able to go to Canada, and they all became Canadian citizens, and then they went, fuck the snow, and then they came to LA, and then I was born. But to be able to have the opportunity that I was never even spanked, and he was always supportive of my art. What the fuck? How did he survive this horror and give their kids this opportunity to create like stupid, dirty cartoons and stuff like that? Anyways, so that's my dad as a partisan. And when I had my Kickstarter, and when I had my exhibition, I asked my friend Shepard Fairey, I'm fortunate to have him as a friend, to do a special poster of my dad as a way to remember him. So hundreds of people would have pictures of my dad up on their home as a partisan and learning a bit of history. I needed to travel back to my mother and father's original hometowns. And I'm going to try to go quicker on all this. So it wasn't first for the documentary, but then we ended up turning into the documentary. My dad told me never to go back to these towns, that they're dead, they're no more, and that was it. After he died, I was curious. I didn't even think there was anything even written about these towns anymore. I really thought, I'm Superman. Krypton is fucking exploded. It was gone. It was no more. And then I find out, I talked to a friend in Latvia because I was doing a fellowship in Riga, and she's like starts telling me all about my father and my mother's towns. I'm like, how do you know this? What an amazing fucking historian are you? And she's like, I found it on Wikipedia. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't think these towns even existed, And so then her and her husband took me through Poland to Ukraine, and I was the first one in my family in 66 years to go back to these towns. And I started talking to people. This is a woman, when she was 12 years old, witnessed the mass murder of the Jews in my mother's town. I was the first one in 66 years to be able to pray for the memory of my grandparents, where literally for the last 60 years, it only said 3,680 Soviet citizens died. Somehow they became Soviet citizens like 6 months before they were murdered, and that's how they were remembered. Until recently, there's a marker that says that actually 3,680 Jews died. I had to go back to the park of my mother and of my father's town, the park where everyone hangs out now. This kind of Ukrainian park. 10 minutes left. Oh my God, we have nothing. All right, we're gonna have to go a lot quicker. Anyways, I'll just end up with this story, then we're gonna move on to other crazy stuff. I didn't mean to go into all this stuff. So this was a park, but this used to be the Jewish cemetery for literally like 300 years. All the headstones were removed, and it's now a park, and the headstones were used as a base for a building. So I created this Magi Truth costume, and I had to put that on, and I nailed the pictures of my grandparents and great-grandfather onto the wall. Anyways, let's move on to other things about creativity. Okay, we're going to go through some of these photos. These are some of the paintings that I did of the Mythical Homeland exhibition. But the idea is being able to have an idea, understanding who you are, and to be able to create art and work and life based on how you are. The funny thing is, this whole story of the forest and how it saved my father, I didn't even realize it affected me even a decade before. So a decade before, I had an exhibition called My Hunger for Venison. It was all about me running into the woods. Like I was in a very deep, dark place in my life, and knocking myself out, and then waking up and finding this venison girl, licking my wounds, nursing me back to health, and devouring me. And so that's who she was. It's like a little wild child. And that became a theme in my art. And from that, I had another exhibition called I Melt in Your Presence. And this is a whole notion of being able to, again, breaking down societal walls, to live in this kind of world, this fantasy world, or maybe not the fantasy world, of just freedom or sexual freedom, or being free to be who you are and what you are. And I created all these imaginary characters. From that, these characters started to come out. I didn't know who they were, but they were all over the place. What the fuck? And so I started painting them and doing these large paintings and like, what the hell is coming out of them? And what the hell is going on? And they're actually shoo-shoos. That is their name. I found that on Wikipedia. Actually, I made that up. Anyways, so the shoo-shoo, and what the shoo-shoo does is the shoo-shoo takes away all the girls' negative energy and hate. They absorb it, and then they ooze it as creamy, gooey love out of their belly button. It's so freaky, you know? They get really messy sometimes. Sometimes they get a little aggressive. But after they ooze out their love, their bodies melt and they're left with their heads. And if they get kissed by a girl of pure love, then their bodies will form back. So there's a whole story. Some girls can't accept the love of the shoo-shoo and they club them to death like seals. Like most of the girls from RIT. All right. Some of the girls wear the pelts of the shoo-shoos and they're called fashion victims. Again, like the girls from RIT. Okay. From that, I started wanting to do these art performances, and I love the idea of the shoo-shoos and wild girls dancing. And so the museum, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, asked me to do a performance, and I did, called Giggle and Pop. So there I wanted to work with a choreographer, a composer. I wanted to create an environment to get people to dance and sing with us. But they did so. They got these special memory pieces. God, we're going to go fast. Okay, then I had another art performance called Secrets and Truth. And in Secrets and Truth, the goddess of dreams had to die. And the goddess of dreams was the goddess of our parents' dreams. And what I needed to do was we needed to kill her, discover our own true self, and then resurrect her as a goddess of our own dreams. So these are just some of the photos or images from the art performance itself. Maybe someday you'll come back when I have like enough time to really do a real talk, because I know you guys are so bored. But this, I'm just going to show you a few seconds of the performance. Okay, that's enough. I wish we had more time. I completely fucked up on everything. So here is Coach. So I've been really fortunate in a lot of the collaborations. And I did the spring collection for the New York fashion brand Coach, where I wanted the art to be an actual extension of my own work. So I created this type of secret society. This guy is Buster LaFabe. So I created this kind of wild beast secret society, or these little beasts that lived in the girls' handbags. And so also these like surrealist bunnies. And so this is like one of the original drawings for the inspiration of it. So she's like his little pet. But he's willing to give up his own fur to keep her stylish. Here is like the whole hierarchy of the world. I even came with a special music list of what they would listen to. This is part of the collection. It was like beautiful, playful. It was really special. Here's some of the dresses. And then they actually made me take all 26 looks and I redrew them as our little characters, our creatures. And they started putting the wild beast on everything. And then I had an exhibition in Colette, and I wanted it to realize it was just like, it was an extension of my own artwork. Then I also did another art performance in London at the Serpentine where I blindfolded 400 people, but I'll go into that another time since we don't have any time left. That's me as a little kid, again, when I peaked. When I was 11, I won the Bob's Big Boy contest. Again, it looks now that I have it easy, but back then I had two types of hair. So I didn't date till I was like 18. I had like kinky hair in front and curly hair in the back. That's how I drew, so my mind is always a bit crazy. My first monograph was Dumb Luck, and my first exhibition. It was all about be careful what you wish for, because you're going to get it, and it's basically a rabbit who had to cut off his own foot to hold his lucky rabbit's foot. There's the dunces. We're going to go through a lot of things. Ha-cha-cha-cha, who happens to be a little devil that deflowers angels by stealing their halos. The Happy Idiot. This is actually the most romantic of all stories, where he literally has to sacrifice himself and melt himself down to let his love, the mermaid, live within his body of water. There's Creamy, basically part of the same series, where he just basically is so in love and desires that he ends up creaming himself. The Buckingham Warrior, which actually was based on my father's story and about his amazing will of survival. Here's a wall I painted in Rome. And we're just going to show you literally like a second. And I did this with the Museum of Contemporary Art in LA. And we used the music of the South African white rap band, The Antwoord. Okay, sorry. That's it. I'm known for the board game Cranium. This is an old New Yorker cover. It's for Mother's Day. It's a little bird bringing his mom breakfast in bed. It just happens to be his twin little brothers. I used to do a lot of editorial work. There's the Antwoord I used there. They used my costume on their first album cover. Hello Kitty, blah, blah, blah. This is Decanter for 1800 that I had a TV show called Teacher's Pet and a feature film. And I'll show you like a few seconds of this. Oh, that's really...
Last day of school, do you?
And ruin my perfect attendance record? I don't think so. Come on, let's go! Pants? Check. Shirt? Check. Tail tucked. Eyebrows plucked. Ears and cap? Ooh, table scraps. Jaw demolished. Apple polished. World, here I come!
And I screwed up, so we don't have enough time to watch this, but we'll find another way. We'll all get together. This is part of my obsession of photos and masks. This is actually a selfie of me. But this is the little ghost girl I was showing you before, was so freaky. Look how so cute she is. And I just love these items. I mean, again, I love these photos. They're like beautiful works of art. I think they're just so special. And I became very obsessed with the idea of our hidden identity and discovery of who we are. And I have to own the original photos, not a digital copy. It has to be the real thing. Hint, hint. So I also started working on weird ephemera, and I started drawing in it. So I didn't know what was real or what not real anymore. Because again, I was telling you, I kind of live in my own dream reality. So I don't even know anymore. You know, it's like, is he real? Are these real? I don't know. And then this is the only thing that's photoshopped of it all. And that's Toby. And who is Toby? So I created Toby at a time where I had a lot of secrets that I couldn't share with anybody. And so for me, I wanted to blur the lines between what was fine art and toy culture. And so I created Toby. And so actually Toby's based on a real girl. This is Toby. She's about 4 years older than me. And I was in love with her. And that's why I titled the show For the Love of Toby. But I wanted someone who was like my best friend and the keeper of my secrets. And then here, in many of the paintings, it's all about Toby gifting to another. So you're gifting Toby, your most personal, intimate self, to somebody else. So take me to your secret place. Here's Toby again being gifted. So all the girls may be a little different, but they're all Toby's girlfriends, and they're all named Marilyn. So here's some of the paintings and the works from the original For the Love of Toby show. This is like Savoring Toby. This is like it's only a carrot. If you put your ear to it, you can hear the ocean, Toby. And Toby Hell, and then Humpty Toby, and Toby's Baby Bottom, and the Toby Fan Club, and You Can't Hide, Toby. You can't hide, Toby. And then Toby also manifests himself in many, many different ways. Here he is as a gingerbread. Here he is as a spider, as a floaty, as a fish, as a bomb pop, as flowers, as a piñata. And there's a Toby Door Gods. And this is, Toby just had his 10th birthday, and I had a big art installation. And we're almost done. We're all done, but we're not done. So from his party, and then the idea of Toby and his travels. So Toby as a figure, I ended up taking him to, I had him as a prototype at the Sistine Chapel in Rome. I snuck him in April 2nd, 2005. The exact same day I took this photo, the Pope dropped dead. Coincidence? Maybe. Here's Toby doing some graffiti at the Play de Tokyo in Paris. Here's Toby in Los Rocas. Here's Toby with long-neck girls in Thailand. Here he's making tequila in Tequila, Mexico. In Scotland at Disney Studios, brown-nosing Mickey. In Florianopolis, with the Mona Lisa. I'm going to start going really quickly. So, with Warhol, with Dali, over in Chicago, over with Rothko. Remember the Rothko story? over with Lichtenstein and with Coons and Michael and Bubbles. And we're just going to keep going through, getting an idea of who Toby is, from Pisa to Taipei 101 to Riga, Latvia, to his girlfriends in the island of Cyprus, to Des Moines, Iowa, to having Shabbat in Haifa, to Jakarta, to Hollywood and more legs in Hollywood, and of course that's my bathroom. New York and Russia with more girlfriends, and Lvov and Atlanta, Georgia, of course, and Ireland and other places with furries and Hello Kitty and kitties. And that's Blackie, the best fucking cat in the world. He's 22 pounds of pure love. Some puppy dogs and a shark. So Michael Muller, who spoke here the first night in this room, this is the only photo that I did not take. He took this to South Africa and put Toby in the mouth of a great white shark. Rio and with Jesus, he has a very special personal relationship with Jesus. Here in different ceremonies, and Confederate cemeteries honoring Martin Luther King, here in Auschwitz, in Florence, in Russia, in Spree Park in Berlin. You used to live there, right, David? Okay. And when we go into how he used to masturbate there. In London, in Florence, Double Rainbow, in Wisconsin, in Venice, Italy, in the Dead Sea. What the fuck are you smoking a cigarette, little boy in Jerusalem? His favorite little friend in Vienna, Austria. In Barcelona with Hamon. In Israel, Israeli meat, just meat. More brains and the truth bug and the snail and just going on. From Oslo, Norway, which is his favorite park in the world. He loved this place more than anything. I couldn't get him away. In Maui, in Mexico City, at the wall, at the Red Square, here at Disneyland, in Singapore, in Big Sur, in Thailand, and elephants, and Bangkok, and more girlfriends, and lying with dogs, in Nikko, Japan, and Jerusalem, and the beaches in Rio, and Barcelona, and this is Carnival in Brazil, and with a lot of Tijuana, and the we can just keep going. Just a couple of running gags. And Abbey Road, and Quentin, and Tommy Lee, and Johnny Depp, and the Hoff. And so you can see Toby has an amazing life and an adventure with a lot of interesting, and Alice, and Alice, and Alice, and Alice, and a Toby clone. And then Toby in Toronto. And I think that's the end. And then Toby here in Shanghai, and I think this is the end of our talk. Yes, it is. Okay. So I'm sorry I went on a little too long. I don't know if there's any time for any quick questions. You know what? Let's just do it anyways. Any questions? One thought? No questions? Yes, maybe? Don't be afraid. Okay. How did I hook up with Coach? That's actually an amazing question. And then here, I'm going to give you a little present for it. So this is one of my truth pins, like the one I'm holding right here. So Coach, actually, they sent me an email. And normally, I lose emails, you know? And then it was also when Coach, hi. So, yeah, what's your name?
James.
Hi, James. Thanks, James. So Coach actually sent me an email saying they were interested in me. And honestly, I looked at the email and I said, what the fuck does Coach want with me? Because it's such like a middle America brand. Then I Google searched the creative director, and he was the real deal. He was a new creative director. It was the most lovely collaboration. So when I had a call with him on the phone, I said, if you're serious, fly me out. We flew out. We had these conversations. He was talking about the collection, talking about David Lynch and Lost Highway, and I'm like, say no more. We are in the same club. Let me do what I want to do. And they never told me. And then I said, well, what of my work are you interested in? Like any specific part of my work? And they just showed me their inspiration board. It was all over the fucking place. So from that, it was like, okay, and they gave me complete freedom. And so that's where I had that freedom to create this amazing body of work. So it's you know how I got the job? Dumb luck. Basically, I just cut off my own foot to have my little rabbit's foot. One more question? Two more questions? Okay, really quick. Well, Teacher's Pet was just a lovely show where all of the paintings, all the backgrounds were painted on canvas to emulate my work. And again, collaborating with really people who are much, much more talented than me. So Bill and Sherry Sandkellner, who are my writing partners, and here's another pin. But this is actually the pin of, these are all truth pins, but this is a hand sign that I came up with when I was 20. Can you do it? It's the sign of truth. Can you you got to put the fingers together. But put it together, put it together. So you could do it. So it's like the sign of truth. So anyways, so I created that. But Teacher's Pet was something that I always really wanted to have a TV series. And then my director was such an amazingly talented asshole, but he was great when he was my asshole. But again, it was we had a really great team of really smart, funny people that were better than Disney. And we ended up winning a lot of Emmys and awards and stuff like that. So it was lovely and horrific at the same time. And, okay, one last question, and then we're going. God, there's too many people. Okay, we can't. So sorry. Blame her. Fuck you.
Blame me.
There's a mob outside the window.
I know. Yeah, there's a mob outside the window. There's more people outside than there are in here. All right. Thank you very much.